All right. Hello, everyone. Good morning. Please, can you confirm that you can hear me? Just with a reaction or an emoji or something. Awesome. Thank you very much. All right. Welcome. Welcome once again to AWS Academy FUTMINNA. And today we'll be having our second class. Um, we'll just give some time for others to join, say, next 4 minutes. All right, so that others will join. And while others are joining, you can just drop in the chat box, right, what you learned throughout the week. Right, we said we were going to study module 2, which was on cloud economics and billing. So you can just, drop a few points on what you've studied during the week, or questions you might have, or concepts you learned, thoughts, anything, as long as it is relating to the topic that we're studying today, right? Just while we're waiting for others to join.
Good morning, Victor. Can you hear me?
Yeah, good morning. I can hear you.
Okay. We are still waiting for our participants to join, right?
Yes, yes, we're waiting for others to join so that at least we'll have a good number before we can start.
Okay.
Right. While we're waiting, I wanted to show us something, right? Quite a few people have not, okay. quite a few people have not changed how their names is showing on the learning management system. Right? For most people, it is still showing as their email. Come to people, see that all these people is still showing as their email. Okay, this person has updated his name, this person has updated his name. And the thing is, that's the name that is going to show up on your completion certificate or anything that is going to be issued from AWS Academy to you. So if you don't update your name, you're going to just see your email right there on the certificate. So I've already put a video on how to do this in the group chat, but let me just still go over it again. Right? So you come to account, right? Then you come to settings, right? Then you come to, where is it? Okay, no, this is my, okay, then you come to edit settings. Okay. Then you see full name, display name, and sortable name. All right, you might decide to go with the same thing. You might decide to arrange your name in any way, but please do that so that it's not your email that shows up on your certificate. Once you're done, you just press save and you're good to go. Right? So that's what I wanted to show you guys. Okay, I'd say quite a few people have joined. Like we mentioned last week, today we'll be going over module 2 of the course, and today I will not be handling the session. We have another instructor to be handling the session today, which is in person of Yusuf Toye. Right, he will be handling the module 2 session today. So please make it interactive, right? When he asks questions, when he, gives his illustrations and everything, please do engage, and it's going to be a great session. So over to you, Yusuf.
All right. Good morning, guys. Can you guys hear me? Let me say thumbs up if you can hear me. Hello.
I think
Yes,
people
sir,
are
we can hear you.
reacting.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. So I'll be sharing my screen now, so we can start. Can you all see my screen? So good morning, guys. How are we doing? How's the weekend going? So today we'll be checking module 2. So how did you attended to you module 1? That was last week. That introduction to cloud computing, advantages to cloud, introduction to AWS, moving to AWS cloud. And I believe everything is fine. So before we move on, let me just maybe module 1 and we got understood, so we can proceed to module 2. Can somebody help me, like just give me a a simple definition of what cloud computing is? Anybody will appreciate that. What cloud computing is? You can drop it in the chat box, or you can unmute yourself and who wants to try? Anybody wants to try what cloud computing is for us? Obini Emeke, please go on.
Okay, yes. Good morning, Mr. Toye.
Good morning.
Yeah, cloud computing is the on-demand of compute resources over the internet. That's the simple definition I use.
Yeah, very good. That's a very nice definition. You see, when we are defining cloud computing, there are some keywords that we want to hear. All right, that makes it that gives it that full feature. All right, and one of them is what Mr. Emeke has mentioned for us here is on demand. All right, on demand of what compute resources. All right. So we also have other things aside computer. We have storage. We have, think of it as a thing that you could have physically presently in your own environment, but now you are accessing it over the internet. All right, and you can provision it as you wish. All right, it's on demand, so you can, without buying a server, all right, with your own money, you can provision one over the internet as much as you want. 1,000, 100 is unlimited, or maybe not unlimited, but you can always provision as much as you want over the internet. Thank you, Mr. Emeke. And who can give me like two or three advantages? I want that from another person, like the advantages of cloud computing. Should I check the material? From what you've learned last week, what is the advantages? You know, we said is the on-demand access of computer resources over the internet. Like, what are the advantages of cloud computing? Anybody wants to try? Mr. Yunus, please go on.
All right, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
So from what I've learned last week, some of the advantage of cloud computing is scalability and flexibility. Like you can easily scale, and it's scalable and it's flexible.
Wow.
And also cost saving. It's safe to save cost.
Okay.
Yeah,
very good.
And also
very good.
And also reliability and security.
Wow, very good. Very good. Thank you, Mr. Yunus. You've mentioned a lot. I see some people have also contributed on the group chat. From Joy Akonde, she mentioned flexibility. From Bashir Abdusalam, no upfront cost. Thank you very much. Daniel Bassi also mentioned scalability. Yeah, those are one of the advantages of cloud computing. No upfront cost. You don't have to have the money. All right. Like, you know, if you want to procure a physical server now, your money should be at hand. All right. You cannot go to the market and, you know, speak grammar. You have to have the money to provision the server, even if it's one, even if it's two. All right. And if you want it in large quantity, you have to provide that money. Unlike cloud computing, where you can use resources pay as you go, isn't it? You can they bill you maybe at the end of the month, you know, or sometimes based on what you have used. You know, upfront cost, and it's flexible. You can scale up, you can scale down, you know, unlike the physical data center where if you buy a server now, all right, that's like scaling up. Is it easy for you to scale down? You already bought that server, so it's a cost on you that you cannot maybe just say, okay, I'm no longer using it. If you're no longer using it, then there's no way you can recover that money. Say maybe, I don't know if it's easier to sell servers. So those are one of the advantages of of cloud computing. Thank you very much for your contribution. So since we all know the advantages and what cloud computing is all about, so let's drive straight to today's main topic, which is AWS cloud economics and billing. See, as an experience I have had with cloud computing. In fact, one of the first topic to be treated when it comes to cloud computing is billing. Do you know why? From experience, I would say most of us, some of us are maybe on LinkedIn or all these tech platforms. I'm very sure, or some of us might have even have the experience if you have worked with maybe some cloud platform before. If you see somebody will, provision a server on the cloud in any of the cloud service provider, and probably forget to turn it off. And before you know, they might have even forgotten it. Maybe after at the end of the month, you might forget. AWS will not forget. Amazon will not forget. Then they give you your bill that you spend $1,000. You left your server running. You didn't turn it off. You didn't delete it, and you were not using it. All right. So then you'll be wondering, how come $1,000? What did I buy? But you forgot that when you were practicing or you were exploring, you provision a server on the cloud and you forgot to turn it off. I know some of us here will have experienced that. Have you experienced that before? Maybe with one cloud platform or the other. It might not be AWS. You buy a particular resources and probably maybe you forgot to turn it off. And before you know it, you've already accumulated some dollars. It might not even be much. It might be maybe $100. I hope it's actually much, because $100 is much. Have anyone had experience with that?
Exactly, Mr. Toy. Something like this happened to me recently, but it's not on AWS. It's on Huawei Cloud.
Okay, very good. Very good.
What I'm supposed to choose is different from what I choose, and at the end of the day, the resources that we are supposed to use for like a month or something, then I end up using that particular resources for a day. So just imagine if you don't have the knowledge or understanding of billing.
A day, something that you're supposed to use for a month.
Yes, use it for a day. So imagine someone who doesn't have experience or doesn't have idea about billing, and you know the what's it called, the repercussion of something like that.
Yes. People always have the wrong idea when it comes to cloud computing. They say, okay, it's cheap. It's cheap. Yes, of course, it's cheap. But if you are not careful enough, if you don't understand how billing works, you might end up spending more money than even getting those physical resources like physical present in your premises. All right. So this thing is not funny actually, because if it has happened to you before, probably maybe when you are opening those cloud accounts, if it's not an account whereby you are giving free tire, or maybe an account whereby you are giving coupon to use, if you bind your card and there's money and there's money in the card, you might have to pay for that expenses that you have accrued. Do you understand? So even I was taking a class about some weeks ago. I was taking some students, and I made sure, because I wanted to share my account for them, I made sure the first thing I taught them was about billing. If you burn my money, I will come after you. So it's a very important topic that you need to pay attention to, and that's why you see it comes in at module 2 here. Module 1, they want you to understand what cloud computing is, and the next thing they brought is Oga, be careful, this is billing, this is how it works, so you don't end up acquiring some debt on your cloud account. So let's check what AWS has for us here. Okay, I think we must have gone through it actually. I'm not supposed to be as an educator, we are on is to support, right? So I don't know if you have gone through it, any part of it that felt like you did not get or you did not understand. So the module is all about, we have the fundamentals of pricing, total cost of ownership, AWS organization, AWS billing and cost management, technical support, AWS pricing calculator, and the support plus scavenger hunts rather. Let's start with the fundamental of pricing. Let's start with the fundamental of pricing. You see, there are three fundamental drivers of cost when it comes to AWS. In fact, not even AWS. Let me give you one good news. The good news is, you see, like Mr. Yunus said the other time, he said you were doing something on Huawei Cloud. If you are familiar with Huawei Cloud very well, you know, at some point, you can learn one cloud, how a particular cloud service provider, how they structure their resources, how they design their website, how you can provision resources on them. You see, one good news is, if you come to AWS, the same technology, all right, that is used on Huawei Cloud or Azure or Google Cloud is the same technology, all right, that you see on AWS. What might differentiate? In fact, AWS and Huawei are kind of very close in terms of their, what's it called, the architecture. You get? So the good news is you can operate any cloud platform if you understand one very well. All right. The only thing that might be different, maybe namings and some little you know, the technology, maybe some adjustment and the way it's been provisioned. All right, but the technology works the same way. When you talk of servers, virtual servers, virtualization, the BMS, that's the physical provisioning of a physical server over the internet. Then talk about storage. Block storage is the same thing. The way they have block storage in Azure is the same block storage. All right, you are using AWS, the same thing in Google, the same what have you, file storage, the same what's the third one? There are about 3 or 4 of them. So all right, so it's the same. All you just need to do is understand the concepts. Thank you. So all you need to do is understand the concept. All right. So when it comes to things that drive cost, mostly they are the compute. When you talk of the compute, we're talking about an attribute of your resources, like the vCPU, all right, the memory. And talk of storage, they're talking about this your database, you know, your what have you, then the data transfer, that's the data that is most I think almost all of them, they don't charge you for what is coming in, they charge you for what is going out, the data that is being transferred out of the cloud. Do you know why? If they charge you for inbound, you see, this is a kind of, I think it's a kind of a marketing strategy. No, don't worry, bring it in, we will not charge you. All right, they have sense, because if they charge you for what is coming out and what is going out, it might be expensive. All right, and people might want to, you know, but now don't worry, just we accept it for free. Whatever data you are paying, you want to store video, you want to store your photos, your files in S3, no problem, store it, it's for free, we will not charge you. But when you want to collect it, then it's no longer for free again. So they want people to patronize, you know, put their resources there. Then they know at some point in time you will need those things. So now they now charge you for the data that is going out. That's the outbound. All right, because of course they have to route everything through some of the service telecommunication providers and ISPs and the rest, you know, and even from their own inside network also, they aggregate those things. So they have to charge you, of course. Those are like the fundamental drivers of cost. All right, we have the compute, we have the storage, and we have the data transfer. I don't know if you get that right. So is there anything we do not understand from the fundamental?
Sorry, Mr. Yusuf. I
Yeah.
want to get something clear here. Is
Okay.
it that anything coming in to the system, you are not billing, but when you are taking out is when you get billed?
Yes. Yes. Most times, when you are storing something on the cloud, you are not billed for the incoming traffic. You are not billed for the incoming traffic. You are only billed for the when it's going out. And they did it on purpose. They did it on purpose so that you can encourage you to bring in your data, store in your data, and when you want to get them back, that's when you pay. But though in some cases you might have to pay depending on what uh, what resources you are using. But most of the resources, when you are putting in your data, right, you are uploading something on your ECS or your EC2, or you are uploading something on your S3, you are putting something on your database. You don't really get. But now where it gets tricky is this. There are some function. When we are dealing with APIs. When you are calling APIs and the rest. So let's not go deep there actually. But just all those fundamentals that if you are storing data, most time when you are storing data on the cloud, you don't really get billed. But when you are extracting those data back, you get billed for your data that is going out uh, from your resources. For example, you provision a virtual server, all right? Whatever you download, all right, or maybe you install something, no problem. But when people are accessing, if you are running a website on that server, for example, whenever people are accessing those server, so any traffic that is coming in, no problem, they will not be charged. But when the server is returning those traffic, you get billed for that. I don't know if that makes sense. So same thing like S3, that's is an object storage where you can easily upload some of your files, videos, and the rest. You don't get billed for those resources when they are uploaded. You only get billed when you are downloading something from that S3. What you have put there, you are downloading it back. So you get billed for that. I don't know if that is clear.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Mr. Yunus. Okay. Any other thing we should check there? You understand the concept of how to, people have the wrong idea when they say, okay, yeah, cloud computing is cheap, all right? Of course, it's cheap, but if you don't know, some of us will be working as maybe cloud architects, cloud solution architects, or cloud engineering, or DevOps engineer. See, one of the things that will fall your hand is if you don't know the right resources to use, especially being a solution architect, because you'll be meeting with customers, they will tell you their needs. You want to give them what will suit what they need, isn't it? You need to know the right resources to use at the particular time. So that's why you see AWS are saying here, you pay less when you reserve, pay less when you use more, pay even less as AWS grows. You get. So AWS cloud computing is cheap, but if you don't know about the resources very well and how it works, you might end up even spending more than when you are not using cloud computing. You might spend more than when you are provisioning a physical, a data center. You get that. Who has used the pricing calculator? Has anybody used the pricing calculator? And one of the advantages, they even put the pricing calculator, so you can always. Demistic Tech. Somebody is raising up their hand. Please go on. Mr. Demistic Tech. Sorry, sometimes I might forget to check my the Google Meet listening. So as I check now, I see somebody is waiting on behind. Mr. Demistic, can you go on? I'm seeing your hands raised. You can ask your question. I'm not sure if it's there.
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Okay,
Yeah,
good
yeah,
morning.
good morning. Yes,
Yeah.
sorry, I just have a quick question. So I want you to explain the concept of pay only for what you use. Let's say, for instance now, let's say I subscribe to a cloud computing and I'm only using, let's say, EC2 with some storage and then with like S3 and
Okay.
DynamoDB. So at some point,
Yes.
I haven't turned it off,
Yes.
but at that moment I'm not using it. So I wasn't using it and then I didn't turn it off. So and then from what you said earlier,
Yes. The voice is breaking. Although I get this thing. I still talking. I can't hear you anymore if you are still talking. Might be network, but I think I got the
hello,
question.
hello,
Yeah,
hello,
I can
sir.
hear you.
Sorry, my network cut off.
Yeah,
Yes, yes.
yeah.
So
Go
what
on.
I was just trying to say is that I wasn't using it for some time and then I haven't turned it off. So I'm still going to be charged even though I wasn't using it. And I think that contradicts with me with the concept of pay only for what you use. I want
Okay.
to explain that,
That's
sir.
very good. Okay, I like this question. You see, that's why I said you need to understand every concept. You see, when you hear pay as you go, all right, it means you only pay for what you use. Now, let me start with EC2. Take for example, you are using a provision EC2, that's a virtual server on AWS. And you know they have specification. Let's assume that you bought an EC2, let's say T2 micro or T3 micro, that has a 2 CPU and 1 gig RAM. All right. Then alongside, you know, you provision a storage for it. That's your EBS, your block storage. Let's say you provision an 8 gig block storage. All right. Just think of it like your SSD that is in your laptop. All right. So you provision that storage. That's where all your boots, where your virtual server boots from, and every dependency that your virtual server needs. That's where it's stored. Now, I provision an EC2. All right. I am provisioning it as a pay as you go EC2, not a reserve instance. Now, when I provision that EC2, all right, and as far as that EC2 is running, I will get I'll be charged for the uptime of that EC2. So even though you are not using it, all right, it's running, isn't it? So you'll be charged for the charging what they're charging you for is the uptime of that EC2. Now, bear in mind, let's assume I'm just provisioning that EC2. Maybe I'm just using it to practice something. It's not as if I'm posting a website that needs to be accessed by everyone on it. Maybe I'm just using it for practice. Then when I'm done with it, I turn it off. That's why you need to know what services, what the right instance to use or the right resources to use when you want to deploy. Let's say, for example, now you are practicing and you no longer need that EC2 to run. All right, you don't want to be charged for it. The best thing you could do is turn it off. If you have some things on it that you still need, all right, you don't want to delete it, you can turn it off. That way, you will not be charged because you are being charged for the uptime, not you are being charged for the uptime of that EC2. You get it? Now, but other thing, there's another comma there. You see, when you have turned it off, you know, you are no longer using the compute resources. But there's something, you still have with you there that AWS cannot allocate for another person. That is the storage, your EBS, your block storage. Although you may not get charged much for it as far as you have turned on the EC2. But that block storage, let's say, for example, that 8 gig that you provision, you've turned it off, but that 8 gig is still allocated to you. Whether you turn it off or you turn it on, that 8 gig has been allocated to you permanently. You get it? So as far as that is the volume is still there, you still have to pay for that maybe at the end of the month. Although the billing will not be much compared to when that EC2 is running. I don't know if you get it. Yes, they charge per hour. If you check the pricing calculator for every instance that you bought, you will see their maybe we check that. We check that as we are going. For every EC2 you get or any instance, you can always check their price per hour. That is the way they run, how much you are being charged per hour. So, and most of the time they charge you pay at the end of the whatever resources you have used or your accumulated bill. If you're using pay as you go, you pay at the end of the month. You get it? Now, for example, now for DynamoDB, let me use DynamoDB as an example. Now, for DynamoDB, you are just bringing your code. Now, it's AWS that will provision server for you. You don't have to worry about what kind of server you want to use. Now, you bring a code, all right? You deploy it on DynamoDB. All right, okay. I was thinking of Lambda in my head. Sorry, DynamoDB is you just create your your database. So as far as it's running, even if it's a DynamoDB, as far as it's running, all right, you get charged for that running time. You get it for DynamoDB now. If nothing is accessing your for DynamoDB is based on how that database is being accessed. Unlike EC2 now, based on how that database is being accessed, because you are creating a table and maybe some data that you need on it, right? So it's only when you access those, and that's the advantage of it. It's a serverless, what's it called? Unlike RDS, DynamoDB is a non. I don't know if I'm speaking too much down because this is an introductory class. We have two different types of database. We have the relational database and the non-relational database. All right. So the non-relational database, DynamoDB is one of them, and it's serverless. You don't need to provision a database engine. They do that for you. AWS do that for you, and it's cheaper. All you just need to do is create the table you need. You get. Say for example now, Lambda is one of AWS service. It's a serverless architecture whereby you don't need to worry about the code, the server you want to deploy your website on, or the server you want to use to run your service. All you just need to bring is your code. All right. AWS will provision whatever you need for you. I don't know if you get it. They provision that for you, and you just bring your code and deploy it. And when you deploy your code, the only time you get charged is when that code, is being triggered. It's being triggered. Excuse me. Good morning, ma'am. Sorry, are we together? So I don't know
Yes.
if that makes sense. Okay, somebody said I'm already confusing them with all the resources. Sorry. I'm very sorry. I'm already mentioning some resources that we have not even touched. Some people will be wondering. It's because the person that asked the question. All right, you mentioned you mentioned DynamoDB and the rest. That's why I had to go there. I'm very sorry for those that don't and have not had those resources before. It might be as if we are speaking in language. We are speaking in tongues. Don't worry, you guys will get there. I think we'll get there. All right. So for the guy that asked, I think he's clear now. I don't know who asked that question. I don't know if I've
Yes, I am. I'm clear. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
sir.
Yeah, very good. Somebody, okay. Thought I saw it. Sorry, sometimes you might have to unmute your mic. I may not quickly check the Google Meets and see that your hand is being raised. Okay. Any other question? Any other question? Just like I said, okay, is there a question?
Good morning, sir.
These are senior men in the house. Good morning, Joshua.
I just want to add to what you said concerning the question the guy asked. So let me give an analogy, right? Let's say you want to drive to an occasion, but getting a car is expensive. You can easily go to a car rental company,
Hello, I
rent
can't.
a car for 5 hours. Can you hear me? Can
Okay.
anybody hear me?
Sorry, I didn't hear that part. Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. So I want to give this analogy, right? Let's say, for example, you want to drive out.
Yeah.
I just want to add to what you said concerning the question the guy asked.
Yes.
So let's say you want to drive
Yes.
to
Yes.
an you want to drive to an occasion or an event, but you don't have a car.
Yes.
You know it's quite expensive to get a car, right? But you can easily just walk up to a
Yes.
car rental company to rent the car. And now you guys
Yes.
signed an agreement
Yes.
that you will be charged per hour as long as you are with the car. The company doesn't care whether
Yes.
you actually pick the car from them and park it in your house. They don't have any business with that. As
Yes.
long as they have given you the car, they
Yes.
have given you the key, you have signed the documents and everything, you will be charged per hour
Yes.
whether you use the car or not. But you won't be charged
Yes.
when you bring back the car. So that is just why they say pay for what you use, only pay for what you use.
Yes. Th- Thank you very much, Mr. Joshua. Thank you very much. I think you've added it. That's just a simple analogy for pay for what you use. It's more of like the way we order our transport now. You know, you don't have a car, but you can always what order Uber, then you pay for that particular time. All right. Or another simple scenario that I can say, maybe you go to a cafe, you rent 1 hour. How much they rent for 1 hour? I don't know what they call them now. So probably maybe they say 1 hour is 1 hour is 2,000. So when you rent that 1 hour from the cafe, you didn't do anything. Maybe you're just busy making a call. But you've already paid. As far as you didn't tell them that, okay, I'm sorry, there's an emergency. I have to go, I'll come back or something like that. So you pay for that, you've already paid for that 1 hour, whatever you do with that 1 hour, they are less concerned. I'm just trying to bring an analogy. You get. Thank you very much, Joshua. I think that really helps. That's maybe sometimes I have to bring some those kinds of analogy. Uh, well done. So, any other thing we need to look at? So I was mentioning about knowing the right instance to use in different scenarios. There are for compute service, they have they have reserve instance. We have that's when you are they have pay as you go. We have the reserve instance. We have the what's the third one? There are three of them.
I think is it sports pricing.
Uh, okay, about four. So there's spot pricing. Uh, there's the savings. Yeah, savings. All right. So let's look at. I don't know if they mentioned them here. Pay less by using more. Okay, let me start from here.
I don't know. Maybe
See,
I'm
when you buy,
sorry. Yusuf, I don't know if I'm the only one, but I can't see your screen anymore.
you can't see my screen. Okay. Oh, sorry. Seems to let me see. How about now? Can you see my screen now? Can you see my screen now?
Not here.
Not yet, sir. No, no.
Okay. Okay, I can see it now.
Okay, very good. Very good. So we're talking about we talked about different things that drive cost. We talk about, who can remind me the three things that I mentioned? We mentioned three things that drive costs in AWS. Who can help me with the three before we go on?
You mentioned the uptime, the runtime. I didn't get the last one.
The what? The
Compute, storage, and data transfer.
Someone's listening is a phone. I didn't get that, sorry.
You mentioned compute, storage, and outbound.
We mentioned compute resources, and we mentioned storage and
outbound data transfer.
Yes, transfer of data, that's the outbound. All right. So now let's come to when we are provisioning some resources on compute. There are about four different type of way you can billing you can get. All right, like the billing price or billing let me say the type of billing AWS use for those resources. One of them is a reserved instance. That's what we can see from my screen here. So a reserved instance is like making commitments. All right, that okay, I'm going to be getting this server for such a period of time. So you are telling AWS that okay, it's certain that for this particular period of time, I'll be using this server. So you are committing to a particular time. So when you do that, you save up to 75% money. All right, of just it depends on what you want to do. If you know that okay, you have a particular and this thing you will need it to run for up to 2 years, 1 year, or up to 3 years. It pays you a lot if you use a reserve instance. So AWS reserve that particular instance for you. All right, so that you might have to pay before you even provision that service, unlike pay as you go. But we'll see the difference of all of them actually. So for reserve instance, you can save up to 75%. Pay attention to all those percent because it's different from service plan. All right. So I think okay, that's what they even mentioned here. All upfront reserve instance have larger discounts. Then you have the partial upfront reserve instance has a lower discount. Then we have the no upfront payment reserve instance with smaller discounts. Let's see. I don't know. Most of us we buy data, right? We buy data from MTN or Airtel, or I don't know who our ISP is. Whichever one you use. Have you ever noticed that there are some times whereby if you want to buy, it's cheaper when you buy big amount of data than when you buy smaller amount of data. Recently, I discovered that, and some way, somehow, it even lasts more. I don't know if you have noticed that. If you want to buy maybe 1 gig, I don't know, might be, let's say, for example, 800 or 500. But when you want to buy 10 gig, it might be at the rate of 200 per gig. I don't know if you notice that from our ISP. It's always like that. When you're buying larger amount of data, it's always cheaper. And what are they doing? They want you to buy more, isn't it? So the same thing happened on our cloud services. You get you kind of spend less when you are provisioning more service or larger service. That's why they call as your usage increase, you spend less. If you are buying an S3 or you are buying a block storage, that's EBS, is one of the Huawei service. If you are buying the one with big amount of storage, gets lesser price. So we call it type pricing. All right. There's something I'm looking for. I've not yet seen it. Ask. Okay. Do you know about the free AWS free tier? Does anybody open AWS free tier account? If you have not, you can. I think there's always if most of the cloud resources, cloud provider, they do that, whereby they give you maybe $100 or $200 to use to provision some of their resources to practice and to see how those resources work. So it's a free tier. You get $100. It enables you to gain free hands-on experience with AWS platform. All right, and it's free for 1 year for new customers. So you can create an AWS account. You can learn, you can build, but don't forget to delete your resources when you are done. I don't know if maybe you can check that later. There's a link here. Maybe you can try. Although not all the resources are free, but with that $100, there are some resources, major resources that you can buy, that you can use to practice. All right. So that's for AWS free tier accounts. Now, do you know about this guy? There are some services with no charges. All right, with no charge. They don't charge, AWS doesn't charge you for those services, isn't it? They don't charge you, you don't get charged for them. But one thing is those services, they don't charge themselves, but they can provision services that charge. For example, now Amazon VPC is a virtual private cloud. All right. For everything you do on the cloud, you have your own private network. All right. You have to create your own private network. In everything is virtual, isn't it? You are provisioning that. AWS they have invested in infrastructure. Right? They say you don't worry, don't bother buying server, don't bother buying buying server, buying AWS. Don't worry, we do that for you. All you just need to do is log into our website, create an account, and provision those services and use them as you wish. Right? They've invested in a lot of hardwares. All right. So now there are about millions of customers that are using those servers as you. So how do they differentiate them from one another? So that's why there are some resources you can't provision them without a VPC. They are provisioned inside a VPC, a virtual private cloud. They kind of create a private space for you, whereby you can deploy some of your resources. Although some resources does not need VPC because they have a public what's it called? So for example, your EC2, you deploy it in a VPC, all right? And by default, if you open an AWS account for the first time, I think it's not the same with all the cloud platforms, but for AWS, they've created everything. They've created a default VPC for you, and internet gateway and everything. So a default one that you could use in every region. In every region, they've created it for you. Unlike some cloud platform, you have to create the VPC yourself. I think most of them have defaults, but some, I think you might have to create the VPC yourself. You select the IP address and everything. All right. So we have the elastic beanstalk, we have the auto scaling, we have so for example, VPC now, VPC itself is just what identifies you as a particular customer using a private set, right? Now, some resources that VPC can provision that we drive costs. When you create a VPC, you need routes, something that will carry your traffic out. So you need to provision internet gateway, so you need to provision elastic IP. So all those things can drive cost in the VPC. Although it's not the VPC that is driving the cost itself, but it's those resources that are provisioned. All right. So and you need them. Without it, you can't communicate outside that VPC. We get. So we also have for auto scaling. Auto scaling itself does not drive costs, isn't it? Auto scaling is more of like configuring something that automatically scale, and that's one of the advantage of cloud, if you ask me. The ability to be able to scale at any length within it. Let's say, for example, now think of a physical data center. If there is a rise in there's a spike in their traffic, they have more customer, all of a sudden, they need to add more hardware, they need to add more servers and everything. The time it takes for them to buy server, install and do everything. But look at cloud, within few buttons and few clicks, you've already scale out, isn't it? They even made it easier that you can auto scale. Say, for example, now you have 4 servers before, and there's a spike in the traffic on your website. So you might have configured that, okay, if there's a spike, although it's a little bit deeper than that, increase my workload, increase my EC2, as a virtual server, to so amount. Maybe it's 4, increase it to 6, so that I can accommodate, that traffic that is coming in. I don't know, most of us, I'm very sure we'll be aware when this crisis happened. I think during this government, this cashless policy or something like that. Who noticed what happened to most of those banks? They froze, right? Can you remind me which banks were functional mostly at that time, during that cash crunch or cash policy, what they call it? Some banks were, despite the fact that some banks could not, it was very difficult to use them, but some banks were still functioning. Do you remember which banks were functioning very well at that time?
The fintech banks were functioning properly that time.
Yes, thank you. The fintech bank. And do you know why? Do you know why this fintech that customers were much and things were eating hard,
Can I something?
Yusuf, I don't know. Is it just me? I can't hear you. Please, can we just react? If
all these are normal banks, they could not function. Why? They could not function because they have a physical data center. It takes remember very well. But imagine what it will cost them to set up resources that will meet up that particular requirement of their customers. The stress they will go through before they provision the server, probably maybe they might even need to extend their data center, all these things. But the fintechs, how many infrastructure of OP or money points have you seen? It's not common, right? Maybe except people that are in Lagos, maybe they might have seen, maybe they might have, I know they have, most of them have infrastructure in Lagos. So except that one, you will not see them running their infrastructure everywhere. They depend mostly on, most of their resources are on cloud. And on cloud, you can easily scale your infrastructure, scale your resources. Isn't it easier and cheaper? And that's why you could see during that time, they could function very well. There was no downtime. People started switching over to those fintech. You get it? Somebody is asking a question. Any question on that? Joshua, go on. Engineer Josh. Okay, I can see hands up. Mr. Victor.
all right. Thank you very much, Mr. Yusuf. I just wanted to say that during that period, due to the fact that most of these fintechs invested in cloud provisioning, right? They were able to take advantage of the, should I say, the infrastructure issues that traditional banks used to face, right? And maybe initially, you might think, oh, they're on the cloud, they are paying in dollars, it's more expensive than the traditional banks that maybe have their own data centers right here in Nigeria. But you see that during that period, it attracted a lot of customers from those traditional banks into these fintech companies, which definitely drove up their value and profit and everything, right? That's them designing and making the right architectural and infrastructure decision, even though at some point it might have seemed expensive, right? Was able to um, grab them customers, most of them without even any advertisements or promotions, right? All that happened was that, oh, I'm using OPay, my transfer to you goes immediately, right? And maybe someone who was using one of the other traditional banks, transfer hangs and all that. So that's also a point to think about when designing your cloud solution, right? Don't just think of the present, right? Also think of the future, think about scaling. So just let's give an example, right? You are one of all these traditional banks, right? Based on the principle of the cashless policy, right? There was a cash crunch, cash was scarce, right? And now people have to be making transfers. I'm one of the big banks. I'm not going to mention any bank's name, obviously. And I'm now seeing an influx of transfers, right? I have my data center. I can't do much. Okay, I placed an order for a server, maybe a HP or a Dell or a Huawei server, right? It's going to take maybe weeks at the very best for that server to be shipped over. And once it's shipped over, I still have to configure, I have to add it to the network, I have to deploy applications, I have to, run the workload. And by that time, most of your customers have already gone to MoneyPoint and OPay. So that's a practical advantage, right, that we can see from a scenario that has happened and scenario that we are relatable with, right, on one of the advantages of using the cloud. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Victor. Mr. Joshua, you want to add something too, right? So I love how this class is going. I think you guys are getting the best. Joshua, are you there?
Satoye, yes, I'm still here.
Okay. Yeah, please go on.
Oh, wait, my hand, oh, that
I
was
thought you wanted to add something. Okay, that's fine. Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much. Any question on what we've said so far? Thank you very much, Mr. Victor. I think you've seen the we are just stepping in bit by bit. Okay, somebody might have unmuted. Let me know if you have a question. All right. So as I was saying, we have the AWS cloud formation and the AWS identity and access management. That's the IAM users. All right. All these are resources that does not require you to, to pay. It does not require you to, you don't get charged when you provision them. But there are other resources. Those resources can provision that will drive costs. Do you get it? That will drive costs. I don't think you pay for anything for IAM user. IAM user does not in any way drive any cost. I think IAM user has to do with just security, setting some security rules and policies of who or what can access your resources. Aside from that, but these other four, like provision services that can drive costs, but them themselves, they don't drive. Provisioning them does not get you charged. You do not get charged for provisioning them. I don't know if that is clear. You can always check what is it called? We move on. So that we can move faster. I think if I'm trying to explain everything, I might end up not finishing this module 2. So let's just ask questions based on what you know. I'm just trying to maybe pinpoint some things that I see that they are very important and we need to know them. And probably maybe you might not get there when we are reading. All right. So that means you all understood what all these guys does, right? Demistic, yeah, you can go on.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Atoyi. Please, I want you to explain this concept of consolidated billing and how it works, please. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So when you hear of consolidated billing, all right, it's a way whereby you can create. If I have an account, an AWS account, when I open an account, everything I provision will be charged on that account. All right. But in an account, there are some features. I can create organizations. Let me log in. Let me see if I can log into AWS. What's my let me try to log into AWS so I can show you. I just hope we don't waste too much time on that. So there's something called AWS organization. You can also create an organization. That organization is just a way for you to separate. In an organization, let's say for example, in an enterprise architecture, you have different departments. All right. You might not even think of it that far. I might want different people to use my account. Say for example, and I want to differentiate them. All right. I want to differentiate the users. I can create an organization. All right. I can create an organization. You get it? I can say, okay, let me just use for you to quickly get it. Let me use an enterprise organization as an example. In an enterprise organization, you have the finance department, the IT department, the project department. Which other department do you have again? I know most of us must have an encounter with one or two enterprise business or architecture. The way they operate. You have the production department. All right. If this department, they are making use of some services on the cloud, on AWS, all right, I might want to create a different organization for them, all right? So there's something called organization. I'll be logging in while I'm talking so that if I can show you. So you can create an organization to separate them. But in the end, every bill is still charged by the owner of that account. That's what they mean by consolidated building. All right. One bill for multiple accounts. In the end, it's still that owner of the account that gets charged for everything. If I'm the owner of the account, for example, I am the admin. All right. I create a department, an organization. I call it the production organization. All right. In that organization, I'll create an account. I create another. I just try to separate those different departments such that what finance is doing will not be seen by what the production department or the IT department, what they are doing. They cannot see just a way of segregating them. But in the end, the billing is still one billing. But that way it's easier to track. Okay, how much does this organization use? How much does this organization use? I don't know if you get it. So that's why you see they say consolidated billing provides it provides one bit for multiple accounts, the ability to easily track each account charges, all right, and the opportunity to decrease charges as a result of volume pricing discounts from combined usage. We mentioned earlier that the more resources you use, the less charges you get. The higher you go, the lesser you pay. They kind of make it accommodating, so you can still get that discount, of using when they combine those resources together. I don't know if you get that. So you can also have IAM user. You can create, aside from that organization that I mentioned, aside from creating an organization to differentiate each department, you can also create an IAM user. Who is an IAM user? And what is IAM? IAM is what? The full meaning of IAM is Identity and Access Management. Please pardon me, sometimes I get carried away that we are in a beginner class. You can always call me back if I speak any, this you don't understand. So AWS IAM is, and every cloud service provider have an IAM, what is it called? Their name might be different, but for IAM is the kind of security control system, whereby you can create an IAM user and give them a particular rule or a particular policy. All right. If, for example, I'm teaching you something right now, and I want you to practice it. And I want you to have access to only EC2. All right. I can create an IAM user for you, and I'll give you the permission to access only EC2. I don't know if you get that. So that's for IAM. But whatever that person does, whatever that IAM user that I created does, will still be charged on my account because I'm the owner of the account. The owner of the account will get charged for everything that is done, in that account. I don't know if I answered that question very well.
Yes, you have. Thank you, sir.
I don't know, this AISPL is a this AISPL, don't bother about it much. I think it's for India. Is it Indian? This AISPL is for Indian. I think for some countries, there's some special scenario like that AWS created for some particular reasons. You guys, for example, this AISP, I think it's for Indian country. If you are in India, or if you are creating your AWS account and you are using India address, there's a way you have to go through, because India wants to collect charges on every maybe account that is being opened. So let's not go deep into that. Actually, we are not in India, and we don't plan on this. So it's an Indian account. It has to do with something relating with tax or something. The Indian government partner with AWS. So any citizen that is creating an AWS account, we must go through this AISPL something. So they're like a private. So in that way, they pay tax on whatever resources they are buying or they are trying. So any other question? I guess we should just be asking questions instead of me just. If I want to take all these things, I might end up explaining and might not finish. That's clear, right? Any other question from total cost or from the resources I mentioned earlier? I think we know what total cost, or should I just be asking questions so that we know if we know it, right? And before I leave I didn't even know, I'll have prepared some questions so that I'll be sure if you guys understand it before we jump. Still have some few minutes left. I want to show you something on this thing, but let's leave that because to waste our time. Maybe there will be time for, I think there should be time for lab. There will be a lab. You see all those things that we are mentioning. You all understand everything about the total cost of ownership, right? For total cost of ownership, where do we use that? Where do we use CU? We have total cost of ownership, and we have there's the one that is used on the cloud. I don't mind me. I'm just, if there's a particular place you guys don't understand, so that you can point it out. Did anybody try using the calculator? Anybody try using the AWS price calculator?
Yes, sir. I tried it.
Okay. How was it? You were able to go around it and
I was able to go around it, but I don't understand it much in detail.
okay. When they're speaking of total cost of ownership, most infrastructure prior to the start of cloud computing, everyone has their data centers and the rest. So some companies have been running since ancient days. Now, as a company, you are hearing cloud computing, and you want to transition to cloud. There are some things you need to consider first. I don't know if you did that. I think that should have been maybe one. Where they're talking about people, business, and the rest. There are some things you need to consider. You don't just move to the cloud, all right? Cloud has its benefits, but then, okay, you need to know what resources needs to be on the cloud, all right? And if there is need for your entire architecture to be on the cloud, if that's the best way, that will save you cost and, So you can always check the total cost of ownership, all right? Consider everything, the server, the storage, the network, the IT labor, and compare it with when you are provisioning on cloud. That's why AWS tried and provision a price calculator. And I think I like that feature so much because it will give you overview of what you'll be spending compared to what you have physically, all right? Or even if you are a business that is starting for the first time, all right? You are just starting and you are thinking of whether to provision on-premise or to use cloud architecture. You can always do the estimate. Okay, if I want to provision on-premise, how many servers do I need? All right, aside from server, I will need power, isn't it? All right, I will need storage. I will need somebody to set up my network. I will need IT labor. Excuse me. All right, I will need some, all the schooling, what have you. So you need to consider all that and compare it with when you are provisioning on cloud. Which one pays you more? Which one, you need to, aside that, you need to physical disruption or what have you. So a lot of things to consider, isn't it? So you choose the one that you compare the total cost of ownership. Total cost of ownership is a financial estimate that is intended to help buyers and owners determine the direct and indirect cost of product or system. All right. So that's for That's for total cost. Although there are sometimes difficult to determine. All right, calculation of in-house costs must take into account direct costs and indirect costs. There are some costs that you cannot get the actual estimate. For your server now, you can know how much to prepare, how much to buy, because there are some indirect costs. All right, that's what you need to do to keep maintaining that thing to continue running. Those your servers and the whole infrastructure, the cost that it takes for it to keep maintaining. There will be maintenance and everything that comes with it. And that's why they make an example here of a company that was running an on-premise server. You can see the difference. This particular company was running this is the 3 years total cost of ownership for on-premise. All right, and when they calculated it with AWS, you see the server they procured for $91,922. You could get it for $2,547 on the platform. The storage, can you see the difference? And good for you. You don't have to spend money on networking or IT labor. Your own is to provision. AWS will be the one concerned about how that provisioning come about, the networking. They already have, I mentioned that AWS invests in infrastructure, both not just the infrastructure, the networking. Have we done? Okay, I think maybe that will be another chapter. AWS global infrastructure. They have a global infrastructure that you can reach anywhere. They are in most places. They've run their connection, so you don't need to test yourself. How does my traffic want to go out? They will handle that for you. The networking will handle that for you. You understand? The IT labor, that one is left for them. All the installation of server, configuration of server, all right, they will do that for you. Your own is just to click and buy. All right, you click and buy, and so you can see overall total cost. Can you see the difference? $167,000 per 422, and 7,000. If you minus this from this, how much do you think will be left? Oh God, it's not even close. And for 3 years, depending on the resources, there are some. If you get some reserve instance, it's cheaper. If you know the type of workload, you can get reserve instance. Reserve instance are way more cheaper. And that's if you know that you'll be using that workload to full capacity within that 3 years, and you can provision for it. So that way you save 75% of the money you could have spent. I don't know if you get, but sometimes you might want to use pay as you go. If you don't know, what the workload of what you want to deploy would be like, you don't know yet, you're not certain yet. So you just use pay as you go. So in case the workload increase, you pay for just what you are running. And if it doesn't, just pay for that small amount. But if you pay for reserve instance and you're not using that instance up to its capacity, maybe a database or a storage or an EC2 instance or a server, you provision it and you buy it as a reserve instance maybe for 1 year or 3 years. You pay that money, even if you are not using that server, you have committed that 1 year or 3 years. So let's say, for example, if you are buying an EC2 instance for a reserve instance as a reserve pricing, you pay $1,000 for a year. That's just an example. All right. So if you are not using it up to its capacity, let's say you are not even using that, or maybe the demand is not coming as you thought, you've already paid that $1,000. It does not concern you every year whether you use it or not. But good for you, if you are using it up to its capacity, that means you are putting your money to use, isn't it? So those are just the things that you need to know about, pricing and cloud instances and so I think they're just explaining, Okay. Okay. I thought it was a question. Okay. Yeah, somebody is raising on their hand. Why is it that it is this Dempsey that is asking question? Like I will start asking others question. What's happening? You guys should ask question. That's why I'm expecting you guys to ask question. Dempsey, go on. Or is it that I have not checked the
Okay.
material? I'm expecting questions now.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir. So I just have a simple
Yeah.
question here. Let's say I pay
Okay.
for all is a year all upfront reserve instance, and then probably
Yeah.
before the year runs out, I need to scale up my services. So how am I going to charge for new services that I'm like adding to my, that I'm adding to my resources? How are they going to charge for it? Are they
Yeah.
still going to charge for it based on the all upfront reserve instance that I subscribe to, or they are going to be charging
No.
this one on pay on demand?
No. That's the advantage. You are using on premise and you want to maybe increase the what's it called? They just add that small charges of what you are increasing. You get it? You just add that small charges of what you are increasing. Let's say, for example, you are running a 4 vCPU instance, all right, with 4 gigabit RAM and 8 gigabit storage or 16. Then you want to scale it up. You just get charged for that little scaling you are adding. All right, maybe instead of 1,000 $1,000, all right, they will calculate what is left and just add that little charges of that little addition you have done. They don't start afresh or do it as pay as you go. It has to be that what is it called? It has to be that reserve or savings plan, whatever you are using. You get it. I don't know if that's clear.
Yes, I get it. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
So speaking of pricing calculator, let's check pricing calculator. So one of the features you can use is AWS pricing calculator, and it's very helpful. It can give you overview of what you want to, provision on the cloud. So now, you can see this is the pricing calculator. One of the things you can see here is you can search the resources by locations, all right? Or you can search the particular service. Now, this should tell you something. Search resources by location. That means there are some resources that are present in some location that are not present in others. As we all know, these are cloud infrastructure is something that is always advancing. Sometimes there's a new service. Sometimes they might have to provision in a particular place where AWS has larger customers. And there's a lot of things that come into place when they are deciding what services is here, what services is not here. Do you understand? So sometimes there are some resources or some services that you will have in a particular region that you will not have in another region. So you have to know if the service you want is present in a region you are choosing. All right. So we can search our service by region. All right. By region, and we can also search it by service. That you search the name of the service itself. Let's say, for example, let's pick EC2, the one that I think you'll be more familiar with. All right. You can think of any service. There are thousands of services on AWS. All right. So there are some that you might not even use. 10 years in the field as a cloud expert, you might not even use them. So it's not your area of concern or the area of focus. You might not use them. But the ones that you are using, you be familiar with them, you know how they run, you know. So let's say, for example, I'm taking Amazon EC2. I want to know, I want to provision, I'm thinking of moving I'm running 4 servers, all right, on premise, and maybe 2 storage. So I want to think of moving to the cloud. So I want to see what that will cost me. Does anybody have an idea how much they are selling server? Anybody selling server here? Maybe you can share your business idea. Do anybody have idea how much they are selling server? You can look it up. I just wanted to know like how much it costs to provision a server, to get a server. Anybody has an idea? You can Google it if you want.
I think 1.5 million or 2 million.
1.5 million. Oh my God.
It depends on the type of server.
That's a
Latest
lot.
one. It depends on the type.
Latest one.
Yes.
Wow. That's a lot. Imagine I want to start a business now. And it's just a startup. What do I get? Thinking of 1.5 million alone. To get a server, all right, to provision a physical server. Then I've not yet calculated the cost it will take me to power it, you know. Then I have to do my networking, you know. So I'm giving my EC2 a name. Let's say provisioning on cloud. I want to check estimate for a particular EC2. So I can choose the region I want. Now, sometimes what you want to do, maybe let me not go deeper, since maybe we still come there. There are some scenarios that determine, there are some factors that will determine the type of region that you choose. All right. Sometimes it might be where your customers are. For example, now if I want to run an application, right, that my major customers I know will be Nigerians. All right. I have to pick a region that is closer to me, provided that service I want to run is in that region. And one of the regions that is closest to me as a Nigerian person will be South the one in South Africa. Where is Africa? Cape Town.
I think Cape Town. So, Cape Town.
Yes, Cape Town. Yes. Thank you, Cape Town. So that means AWS has a physical data center, you know, in Cape Town. All these regions are saying are where AWS has invested their, you know, their data centers, their AWS. So I've choose Cape Town. I can choose and mind you, prices also vary in regions. That's why you have to know these things before, and maybe, okay, I want to deploy this in this African region, or maybe in Asia. My customers are in Asia, or I want to even deploy it globally. You know, I want to deploy it in all the regions. You know, so now there's something called tenancy. We have shared tenancy, we have dedicated instance, and we have dedicated host. What is the difference between these things? Now, you know, I said there are a lot of people that are using the same way you are provisioning resources on Amazon. Other customers are also doing that. All right. There's some scenario whereby you have to share, especially if you are using EC2. All right. You have to share a single server with a customer, with another customer. How many of us have used VirtualBox in our system? If you have used VirtualBox before, you know, in VirtualBox, you run another, what is it called? You create another machine on top of your laptop, right? You now allocate resources to it. You can create up to 2, isn't it? Give it different operating system. All right. If you have used Kali very well, I think you'll be familiar with what I'm saying. There's something called virtualization that allows you to just one laptop. All right. You can create different virtual machines that will act as another laptop on their own, but they are still running on that physical machine, isn't it? So the same thing is done on server. All right, 10 people can be working on a server. They share the resources on that server. If a server is 16 gig, all right, me as a customer, I can provision for 4 gig, and another customer can provision for 4 gig, another customer can also provision for 4 gig. All right, so that's a shared, all right, shared tenancy. You share with a particular customer, isn't it? Now there's a dedicated one whereby an instance is dedicated to you. Now this is different from dedicated host, isn't it? Dedicated instance, just like I said, a particular server, all right, is dedicated to you. But this same server, it's kind of a way, it's kind of a more secure way. If you don't want to share a server, all right, with any other customer, all right, you can always pick a dedicated instance. You kind of provision a server. Are you with me? It's allocated to only you, that particular server, unlike the shared instance where multiple customers, where multiple customers share. Now this is a dedicated instance. An instance, just like the name, is being allocated to you, that particular server or that particular machine. Are we together? I don't know if that is clear. No. We understand the difference between shared and dedicated now, right? Now, the dedicated host is just like now the entire, you are getting the entire physical server to your account. I don't know if you are getting it. One is what? This one now is to your account. This dedicated host now, you are getting a server provision to your, just specifically for your account. So most of the time, depending on what you want to run, if you are running a service that is security, that's sensitive data, you might want to use a dedicated instance or a dedicated host, depending on. But mind, the dedicated host is more has a higher price compared to dedicated instance. You get it?
Sorry, Yusuf, I just wanted to say a bit about dedicated hosts.
Okay, yeah. Please go on, sir.
So I think Yusuf did a good job of explaining dedicated hosts, right? So let me paint a scenario for you. All right. Obviously, you know that at the government level, there are levels of what we call security clearance, right? And even organizations have it. So you have stuff like secrets, you have confidential, you have top secrets, right?
Yes.
Now,
yes.
at levels such as that, right? If for whatever reason the government was going to use the cloud, normally most governments that decide to venture into the cloud, they meet these cloud providers, and the cloud providers provide a totally separate cloud for them, usually called government cloud, right? The US, they have Azure government cloud, they have AWS government cloud, and all that. Now that's totally different. But now let's say that is not available, right? Or maybe you are working in maybe in a bank, or what is coming to mind is social security, but that's US. Okay, let's bring it closer. NIN, right? Your NIN, your BVN, exactly, right? Your BVN, all those confidential information about you that when people get it, they can, use it to impersonate you or use it to commit crime in your name, right? If companies have internal policies that would require them to create dedicated hosts, right? So these dedicated hosts, you are not sharing the server with anybody. You just own that server. And this is because of virtualization and all that. Remember, with virtualization, one server, but multiple people are using it. It is very, very unlikely, but it is not impossible that information can leak, right? And then, you're accessing information that you're supposed to. So that's why, just to take that prevention, you can get what is called a dedicated host, right? And that dedicated host, you own that server, nobody else is sharing it with you. And there is the chance of, information getting out of that into the wrong hands is drastically reduced. That's just what I wanted to add. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much, Mr. Victor. Just to add to that, one of the other features is, you can always bring your own. One of the other features of that dedicated host, you can always bring your own license. All right, so you can always bring your own license. Say, for example, you want to use a Microsoft database or Microsoft compute service, and you have the license, you can provision for a dedicated host and use that your license. So it's just like they are keeping a particular server there for only you. Just see that as dedicated host. I don't know. I don't know if that is clear. Thank you, Mr. Victor. I think that should have cleared everything. So you can see the features. I know most of the ones that will be common, especially with us, will be we normal users or enterprises. If not, maybe government organization or maybe some banks. Banks always have sensitive information, and so mostly what you'll be dealing with are shared instances and maybe dedicated instance. All right. So let's just go with shared instance. So you can choose any operating system that you want. All right, let's go with Linux. Now you can specify the type of workflow that you'll be getting. Excuse me, please. Sorry about that. So for the workload, you can also specify the type of traffic you're getting, maybe a constant usage, a weekly traffic, a monthly spike traffic. All right. So I'll just go with this. So you can play around. It's something that you can play around with and see the different pictures you could get. All right. If I want 4 instances, I will just put the number of instances I want. All right. If I want this 4 instances, I will just put it. Then I can search for a particular instance type. There are many instances, all right, and each of them have their characteristics. I've forgotten how they group them. There are some that you use for maybe very intensive when you are dealing with intensive memory data, or there are some that you use for probably maybe a compute something that has to do with more. I don't know if it's not gotten there. Is it okay? Probably it should be in mode 2 or mode 3, where they mention all these they classify them based on all these instances, based on the workload or the scenario where you can use them. All right. So I'll just go for anyone. Let me just pick C580. So we get there whereby how they group all these instances. So maybe if you want to host a gaming website. All right. So you go for there are some particular resources that you look for. All right. If what you are dealing with has to do with data, maybe computing of data like AI something, right? There are some resources that you go for, and there are some general workload, that one that can handle majorly like almost every scenario, but not as efficient for a particular scenario. I don't know if that is making sense to us. We'll get there, don't worry. So I can choose the memory and the vCPU. All right. So these are the instances that have these features. So you can also choose your network performance if you want up to 5 gig, depending on the traffic you want to drive. All right. And you can see they're already seeing the what's it called, on-demand hourly cost here. Can you see how cheap that is for an hourly cost? 0.234. Right now with my workload and whatever I am doing, if it's for cost savings, if I'm running savings, the price, you can see sorry, I just pressed something on. So let's assuming, okay, now this is good. I'm provisioning C5 AD extra large. You can see my screen, right? Can you see this one I provision? It's having for hourly cost, it's having 0.234, right? And if I'm using savings, can you see how much I'm saving? That's I'm paying upfront, like for 3 years or for a particular year. I'm making a commitment. I'll be saving 62%. Sorry about that. So if you are using a savings pricing, you can see you are getting 0.0, unlike 0.234. All right. So let's see. We'll try the two. We'll try savings and this thing. Then we see the difference. Now these are the plans. We have a savings plan, complete savings plan. You guys can see my screen, right? So we have the savings plan. All right. We have for the instant savings plan. This for a month. This is the complete service plan. This is for the reserve. You can see the difference between the two. If I ask you what is the difference between the complete service plan and the reserved, now let's pay attention to some details here, because for some of us that might be maybe be writing the exams, or we intend to take this, as a profession, and go deeper into it. These are some things you need to pay attention to. All right. So there are 3 different types of payments. If you check, let's check for the complete savings plan first, whereby you'll be getting 66% discount for whatever server you are provisioning. All right. If you are reserving for 1 year, all right, for 1 year and no upfront payments, you'll be getting $135 per month. Wow, can you see that? For these resources that I just bought with this feature, 4 vCPU, 8 gig RAM, look at the storage. All right, I'm getting how much? $135 for That's for a month. If you calculate that for a year, you will get the actual price. 135 times 12 will give you the what is it called? You are paying all upfront. You are paying everything all at once. Now, this is where it gets tricky. Let's calculate this. Somebody should help me press calculator. 135 times 12. What do you get? And if you are paying for partial, all right, you pay partial upfront, right? $770. Then you keep paying $54. Yeah, how much? How much if you are paying $135 per month? Sorry? Can you type it again? I didn't hear you. 1,006. Oh, 1,620. Thank you. 1,620. Now, if you are paying for upfront, see how much we are getting. You see the difference. We are paying all upfront. Can you see the difference? Minus 1,620 from 1,515. You know, these things are just logical something now. If you are paying all at once, you know, just like there's these services that if you are buying things there are things that they sell now in some Nigerian markets, when you are getting that you can, for easy, what's it called, you can pay bit by bit. Say for example, you want to get a phone, they call them maybe Easy Buy, or they have different names. Maybe for solar installation, you know, if you are getting it, if you are paying all your money at once, the price is small. But if you are paying bit by bit, you discover that you are paying more. So the same thing is what's happening on cloud here. All right. AWS wants you to make commitments. If you can make commitment, you know, they give you more discounts. You can see the difference. And it will still, this partial upfront will still be less costly compared to no upfront at all. That's for compute savings. Now let's come to reserve instance. Now you will ask me what's the difference between this compute saving and reserve instance. Why are we getting 72% discount here and we are getting 66 here? Isn't it the same 1 year reservation and the same all upfront? We are getting 1,208. And if it is here, we are getting for no upfront, we are getting 1,500 and something, right? If it is this guy, if it is reserved instance, you are getting 72%. You are getting okay. For no upfront is 107. For all upfront is 1,200. I think that other one was 1,500 and something. Now this is the difference. You see this reserved, you cannot change the family type, and you cannot change the region. If I'm getting this C5AD extra large, I cannot change it to C5AD. Okay, it can still be within this family, but I cannot change to maybe T3 micro or another instance. I don't know if you get it. Maybe there's a need for me tomorrow. I discovered that my resources now, my services now, I just need something that is not, that is not of this type of family. Let's say, for example, this type of family instance that I pick, they are used for memory intensive, and I want to scale down. I want to use a general purpose server. Right? I cannot change family if I'm using reserve instance. But although the discount is much, so if you are sure that okay, there will be no need for me to change, you can use reserve instance. Are you together? You can use reserve instance, so you get 12% discount. I don't know if that is clear. So for somebody that asked that time, if you are using this compute savings, you can always change. You can change, maybe you can add more feature, you can change family, whatever you change to. All right. Whatever you change to, they just add those charges for that particular addition that you did. You get. But for this guy, you can't change the family and region, but you can still add maybe scale up. I don't know if that is clear. So we have for on demand. We have for on demand. Oh, our time is almost up. Oh my God. So always put your unit at 100% to see that if you are using your EC2 to maximum capacity. So see how much you are getting per month. That's 0.234 per hour if your EC2 is running. If your EC2 is running for 24 hours, for a month, you get billed for this. So I can't see the difference between the payment now. Now there's also a payment option, that's spot instance. Now this one is I think it's one of the most cheapest because but it's not reliable because AWS have some resources that are unused in some region. All right, those resources are just there, nobody's using them. Sometimes they can give you out as spot instance, very cheap. Let me see how many percent you get. I think it's 90%, right? It's the most cheapest. But here's the tricky part. When AWS gets customer that are provisioning for that type of service, that type of instance we are using, AWS will retrieve their instance back. Give me my thing. Just as if I'm borrowing you my phone that play game. Whatever a call coming, what will happen? I'll collect my phone back, isn't it? Say, oh boy, time is up. So that's the way spot instance work. But it's very cheap. It's very cheap. So you might use it to run some. Don't worry, we'll still get there that we'll get to a place where we tell you maybe what kind of instance you can use here, what kind of instance is recommended here. You understand? So this one maybe for some workload that are not that important or workload that can accommodate interruption. You understand? So let me just pick let me pick one of these. All right, so I can add my ELB, that's my storage. So this one has its own, what's it called too? And I can add my IOPS, that's the, hey, guys. Oh, sorry. So I can add the amount of, that's the rate at which I'll be writing on that data. So that's the IOPS per volume. All right. So I can specify. I think if you have worked with database storage very well, you will be familiar with this. Let's say, for example, I just need 10,000 per volume or 1,000. All right. So I can specify how many gig I want. If I want 8 gig, I specify that that's if I want, I can also put it as 8. All right. If I want a snapshot, that means I want to be saving. I want something to be. Never mind about this. This just has to do with maybe if you want to recover. There are some scenario whereby you might have issue with your database or your storage. I mean, so if you want to recover to that moment whereby the issue affected your storage, you can always use a snapshot. The snapshot will capture whatever you have stored on that storage, all right, and be saving it somewhere. So you can be keeping a snapshot daily or 2 times daily or monthly, depending on how important your data is. So if your database has an issue, if your storage has an issue, you can always, recover your things from the snapshots. You get that? So for our own case, we don't need snapshots here. Let's see how much I'm getting. I'm getting 185 for instance, 8 gig for the CPU. I'm getting, okay, this for the EBS, 3.35. All right. So this writing, the storage costs. So okay, the total EBS storage cost. Now they're adding every features, the speed, the writing. So I'm getting 195.35 for the EBS. That's my storage. Think of it like the storage of your phone also, where you store everything you use, So if I want to add, all these one are optional. If I want to enable monitoring, I get some additional traffic. Oh, it's 12 already. Oh my God. Time runs so fast. So I can save and add service, or I can save and view. So you can see my total cost, total 12 months is 8,706 for four instance. So you can always use that if this is what I'm having on my own premise, and I'm thinking of provisioning it on the cloud. So you can calculate the difference in price. All right. So that's all for that. You can export it. You can share it with someone, however you wish. So there are so many, you can play around with it. It's very easy to navigate. You can play around with it. Are we still together? Oh my God. Sorry guys.
Yes,
I think it's time
together.
off. Okay. Any question? Any question? Any question? Any question? Oh, I think we're almost done actually. What is left here is a case study. Any question before we call it a day? All this one, they are just showing an example of, I think we must have gone through it. They are showing the comparison between when they use on-premise and on-premise data center and AWS. You can see how the difference is, right? So these are just scenario, right? These are just scenarios. I think I've even explained this that time. Organization, I explained it that time. All right, I explained it that time. So this is your own account. Then the organization you create. Under the organization, you now create an AWS account. Although you can still have organization under organization. Oh, sorry, I'm not sharing my. Mr. Victor. So I think it's about time we call it a day.
Yeah.
I think we've covered large amount of what's it called? It seems there's no question.
Yeah,
Is there any way for assessment, maybe to know if they really understood everything on this
on the LMS, there's I think there are quizzes that they can take. So once they do that, we'll see it on our end.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, guys. Since there's no question, we'll call it a day. Thank you very much for attending. I'll see you guys again next week. All right.
Thank you very much, Mr. Yusuf. Thank you. Have a great weekend.
Yes, sir.